Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are working on the Spanish tragedy, and today we get to hear from Hieronimo in Act 3, Scene 11. Why they didn't break some of this up into be another act so that this could be a 5-act play instead of a 4-act play, I'm not entirely sure, but they didn't. I guess they didn't feel that that was necessary. So here we are in Act 3, Scene 11, but oh my goodness, yesterday we were just in Act 3, Scene 9, so we have a little bit of catching up that we need to do. And in Act 3, Scene 9, we got to check in with Bellimperia, who's very frustrated and irritated that she's being held prisoner against her will and hasn't really been charged with anything. And then it ended with Christopher coming in and saying, like, come on, let's go. And we don't know where they're supposed to go. But that's probably going to be answered at the beginning of Act 3, Scene 10. Some of these scenes, they're fairly short and they take place at the same time. So if you were staging this and you wanted to have it like different areas on the stage so they could interact and maybe mix up some of the timing of it, anyway, something you could play with if you wanted to. But that's neither here nor there. The other important things, Hieronimo now fully believes that it was Lorenzo and Balthazar who killed Horatio because he has Bellimperia's letter and he also has Pedringano's letter. Remember, Pedringano was killed because he had killed Cerberine, but then the hangman came and gave Hieronimo this letter that basically said it was Lorenzo and Balthazar. So he's fired up, ready for vengeance. In Act 3, Scene 10, we kick it off with Lorenzo and Balthazar and a messenger, and Lorenzo's like, you're sure you saw Pedringano dead? And the messenger's like, yep. And he's like, okay, cool. Take this ring and go to Christopher and have him bring my sister back here. So that happens, and that's probably where Christopher goes and then brings her back. So when he comes in at the end of her monologue, that's when she's going to show up in this scene in just a minute. But while they're retrieving her, Lorenzo and Balthazar have a quick chat where Lorenzo's like, don't worry about it, everything's good, like nobody's suspicious of the fact that we're holding Bellimperia in here, I'm making all the right excuses, all of that kind of stuff. Bellimperia comes in and she's like, why have I been stuck in this room and nobody will tell me why? Nobody has charged me with anything. I'm not allowed to talk to anybody or see anybody, and I don't even know what I did wrong. What is wrong with you that you would do this to me? And Lorenzo starts to try to talk her down with a different version of the story, how he thought that he was protecting her from Horatio and from the potential ire of her father if the father were to find out that she was in love with Horatio because of the whole she's still mourning for Don Andrea thing. He was like, I'm just trying to protect you and protect your reputation and all that kind of stuff. Meanwhile, Balthazar is also still trying to be like, hey, put in a good word for me. He's still of that mindset that he wants to woo Bellimperia. And towards the end of Lorenzo trying to talk Bellimperia down and basically just lie to her about everything that's going on and make himself seem to be justified in his horrible actions, he's like, and by the way, Balthazar right over there, he loves you, so that's the one that you should be with. Anyway, and she's like, I don't even know what? And she leaves, and Lorenzo and Balthazar basically decide that everything's going to be fine, and Balthazar should continue to try to woo Bellimperia. They think that they're wearing her down, I guess, at this point, because she left less angry than she came in. And that's basically Act 3, Scene 10. Act 3, Scene 11, we have Hieronimo and a couple of Portuguese men, and Hieronimo is leading them along, and they're all walking together, and one of the Portuguese guys says, by your leave, sir, go ahead. And totally unprompted, beyond that, Hieronimo launches into this monologue saying, "'Tis neither as you think, nor as you think, nor as you think. You're wide all. These slippers are not mine. They were my son Horatio's." My son. And what's a son? A thing begot within a pair of minutes, thereabout. A lump bred up in darkness, and doth serve to ballast these light creatures we call women. And at 9 months' end creeps forth to light. What is there yet in a son to make a father dote, rave, or run mad? Being born, it pouts, cries, and breeds teeth. What is there yet in a son? He must be fed, be taught to go and speak. Aye, or yet, why might not a man love a calf as well, or melt in passion over a frisking kid as for a son. Methinks a young bacon or a fine little smooth horse colt should move a man as much as doth a son, for one of these, in very little time, will grow to some good use, whereas a son, the more he grows in stature and in years, the more unsquared, unbeveled he appears, reckons his parents among the rank of fools, strikes care upon their heads with his mad riots, makes them look old before they meet with age. This is a son. And what a loss were this, considered truly. Oh, but my Horatio grew out of reach of these insatiate humors. He loved his loving parents. He was my comfort and his mother's joy, the very arm that did hold up our house. Our hopes were stored up in him. None but a damned murderer could hate him. He had not seen the back of 19 year when his strong arm unhorsed the proud Prince Balthazar, and his great mind, too full of honor, took him to his mercy. That valiant but ignoble Portugal. Well, heaven is heaven still. And there is nemesis and furies and things called whips, and they sometimes do meet with murderers. They do not always escape. That is some comfort. Aye. And then time steals on and steals and steals till violence leaps forth like thunder wrapped in a ball of fire, and so doth bring confusion to them all. Good leave have you, nay, I pray you go, for I'll leave you if you can leave me so. So he's still very much grieving. There's sort of the bargaining part of grief happening here. This is all about his son, the loss of his son. And, everybody goes, technically this wasn't necessarily written by Shakespeare. It was written primarily by Thomas Kidd. But everybody goes to Hamlet for the father-son relationships and dynamics that Shakespeare wrote about. Maybe he had a hand in this bit too, because it is very much a father losing his son and trying to identify what it is about losing a son that is so painful, and what it is about a son that makes you love them so much. Because he's like, a quick little tumble in bed, and then 9 months later you have this thing that just comes out and it poops and it grows teeth and it cries all the time, but then all of a sudden, and like the more it grows away from you as it becomes its own person. Whereas if you had like a baby horse or a baby calf, it would grow up into a useful farm animal. So why do we not get so upset when a farm animal dies, but we get so upset when you lose a son? Like he's like, what is that? But then he gets into reminiscing about Horatio specifically and how good he was and how he loved his parents, and they'd pinned all their hopes on him and all that sort of stuff. And he's angry at Balthazar, and he starts to get back into the rage and revenge sort of a thing. And then he tells all these guys to go away, and they're like, can you tell us which way the Duke's place is? And he's like, yeah, it's just over there. And he's like, and that's where Lorenzo's gonna be? And he's like, yeah, it's just over there. And they're like, okay, we'll head out now. And as they're leaving, of course, Hieronimo is going to have a little more to say, and we will get to hear that in tomorrow's monologue. So I will see you then. Mwah.